Hi, I'm Bryce Crittenden.
Hi, I'm Caroline Land, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds.
Caroline, how's it going today?
I'm having a great day, Bryce. It's beautiful, sunny, warm, the kind of day that makes you think that like spring is on the way.
Yeah, it is it wants to get here,
Yeah.
which is really nice. And it's I can see you as we record today, obviously. And you've got the sun in the background there. It's at your branch, and things are starting to look up a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting time of year. You're never quite sure which footwear to wear, which coat to wear,
Oh
but
yeah.
somehow we figure it all out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I'm really looking forward to today's conversation on the podcast, because it's always we love on Overdue Finds taking a look back, and whether it's like titles or years in pop culture or whatever, it's what I like to say it's what we do best here on the show, is taking a look back at things. And it's interesting because not a lot of people realize this. Maybe most branches here on March 13th, we celebrated EPL's birthday. So I'm not sure if many people know this, but EPL just turned 109. And Caroline, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been with EPL for?
I'm coming up on 14 years.
Wow. This September will be 9 years for me, which is nuts. Time flies by. So, but it's interesting though to kind of take a look back at EPL in general. And I know things have changed so much since I've been here, and obviously since you've been here as well. And that's what we're kind of going to be talking about today, is kind of EPL through the years. And we have a perfect guest to kind of go over that with us. It's funny because, Caroline, we've had a lot of first-time guests on the show lately, and it's been so fun getting to know so many different staff members here that we haven't had a chance to talk to yet. And I think people are going to really love today's guests. I want to welcome Library Services Coordinator at the Sprucewood Branch, Bernice Linkewich. Bernice, welcome to Overdue Finds. How are you today?
Oh, fine. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, we're so happy to have you with us. We're going to get into it a little bit later on, but I know you've been with EPL for quite a while, and we're so looking forward to hearing how things have changed so much within EPL over the years. Like I said, I'm practically a rookie here in this conversation with my 8 years at the moment. So yeah, we're gonna share what it's been like with EPL over the last couple of decades. But before we get into that, though, we need to quickly touch on March Madness.
We do.
Caroline, there's been some really interesting results so far, and I don't know, has there been, I've got my picks, but has there been a couple upsets that we need to quickly chat about?
Yeah, I think that I think I mentioned it last time. I don't know that I'm over Pearl Jam's upset over Garth Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the music books I did not do well in the books category. Through the first couple rounds, so my brackets were stronger in the TV and the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I was relieved to see that Seinfeld made it out of the first round. I was really worried about that Pride and Prejudice matchup on our March Madness preview episode. I mentioned I thought that would definitely be a first round upset, but they made it, and they're in deep next round here. So yeah, I'm nervous about the next round. Seinfeld next round, they're up against Boy Meets World. The way the voting's kind of tended to skew here, it's if you were a young teen in the mid 90s, that's kind of how the voting's really been going so far. I've noticed, so I'm a little worried about Seinfeld there. But yeah, Caroline, also getting back to the Pearl Jam over Garth Brooks thing, Pearl Jam actually won that easily. So it surprised me because we had it ranked kind of like obviously at the lower end of the spectrum there. But hey,
Yeah.
I mean, I love Pearl Jam. I would rather listen to it in my vehicle than Garth Brooks myself, but it was still surprising.
Home Alone over Titanic as well. That was a recent matchup when we're recording,
Mhm.
and yeah, that one had given me. You can see on my bracket that I had started to write Home Alone, then went back to Titanic. That one gave me pause. So yeah, I had Titanic on mine, but thrilled to see Home Alone doing so well.
Yeah, me too. It's funny because yeah, I also picked Titanic, but I voted for Home Alone because I was like, I'd rather see Home Alone move ahead in this. But yeah, that's an upset I didn't mind at all. On every episode, we always mention, hey, email us at podcast@epl.ca. And we recently got some great feedback. Do you want to share that with everyone?
Yeah, we got a lovely email from a listener, Christine, who wrote in and said, I just wanted to write in and say that I have been listening to the podcast from the very beginning and I love it. And then there was a happy face, which made me happy. So a lovely email, to have just kind of come out of the blue. Christine also suggested some ideas for us, like an anime episode or maybe one on different forms of media to include in a time capsule. And as you know, time capsules are right up our alley.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that shows up in a future episode. And then Christine said, thank you for the wonderful podcast, which has remained one of my very favorites these past few years. So thank you, Christine, for
Yeah.
reaching out. That email made my day.
Yeah, it was yeah, you shared that email with me after it came in, and yeah, it floors me a lot of times. I'm always happy when we hear from listeners, and it's I love that people will spend part of their days with us just listening to us talk about, I'll mention pro wrestling, you'll talk about figure skating, and people still stick with us. So we really appreciate everybody who, yeah, takes their time and listens to Overdue Finds each week. And speaking of Overdue Finds, let's chat about those here. So let's share what we've all been enjoying since our last episode. Bernice, first time on the show. What have you been enjoying lately?
Oh, just getting back, working with the public, seeing people that we haven't seen for 2 years.
Yeah. It's that's got to be huge. Like, what has, I guess for you, like, that's got to be so rewarding seeing people who really have been at home for the last 2 years, and they've just kind of you probably get to know them a little bit, and maybe their kids and everything. Has that been kind of one of the best parts?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And I grew up in this area, so
Hmm.
it's nice to see some of the old people, like, yeah, good to see you're still here,
So when you're not at Sprucewood, though, is there any favorite shows you like watching or type of books you like reading?
I like my mysteries, true crime, so I read a lot of that kind of stuff.
Nice. Has there been a recent one you've read?
No, it's just been so hectic,
Mhm.
just readjusting to working again with the
Mhm.
public and stuff. And you just want to mellow out at night. And I just want peace and quiet and nothing.
I
Nice.
totally hear what you're saying, Bernice. A little behind the scenes sharing that when I share some of my overdue finds, especially through the reintroduction of services here when it's been a bit busier, some of them may not have been quite so recent. I might have been digging back a little bit to get my own finds. So I hear you on needing to have that quiet kind of re-energizing time.
I'm Bernice, by the way. Speaking of true crime, I'm also a big true crime fan. Do you have Netflix at all?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say there's a really cool new true crime documentary series on there called Worst Roommate Ever. And it goes through these cases where, yeah, either roommates have done something rather shady. So yeah, if you get a chance, you should check that one out.
Great.
Caroline, what have you been enjoying lately?
Well, now I feel that I've maybe broken the trust when I say that I did just read this one recently, but I promise you that is true. It is a picture book this week that I have. It's called Mina, 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 by
Mhm.
Matthew Forsyth. And it's the story of a little mouse who loves a quiet life of reading, but her father loves surprises. And one day he brings home a big surprise, a pet squirrel. But Mina's nervous because she's pretty sure that's not a squirrel at all, but in fact a cat that her father has brought into their home. So the book is Mina kind of watching out for this squirrel, quote unquote squirrel, and trying to figure out how to convince her father that it's actually a cat. Matthew Forsyth was the author of Poco and the Drum, which I talked about a couple years ago on here. Very similar illustration style. There's even kind of a Poco and the Drum shout out in here. The art is very soft, dreamy. It's like it reminds me of like a kaleidoscope. And so the characters, when they're living in the forest has all these like swirling colors. It's very funny. Not a lot of story to it, so it's, I would say, deceptively simple as you're going along, in the same way of like a John Klassen book, like I Want My Hat Back.
Mm.
But I really enjoyed this. Matthew Forsyth has worked as an animator on Adventure Time and the new Oscar nominated animated movie, Robin. So definitely a strong Canadian talent in that. So I really recommend everyone checks out Mina by Matthew Forsyth.
So is the look of it similar kind of to Adventure Time, that type of, or not really?
No, I wouldn't say so. It's more
Mhm.
kind of oil pastel or I keep coming back to swirly, which is maybe not the most, I don't know, an art critic probably has better words for it, but it's a very kind of rich color palette, and it's not realistic, but it's not cartoony in the same way. More cartoon than not, but not in that Adventure Time way.
Nice. What ages would kind of be perfect to check this one out?
Like most of my picture book ones, I'm going to say all ages,
Of
but then
course.
I'm going to clarify that by saying probably the age where um, someone could get the humor of calling a cat a squirrel. So be able to know that when
Mm,
they say, "Look, I have a squirrel," that's actually a cat. So
gotcha.
whatever that age is for the people in your life.
It's for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parents will enjoy reading it to their kids by the sounds of it. So
Yeah, and it's really pretty. So I like that part too.
nice.
What have you been enjoying?
Well, it is completely different than what you just recommended, Caroline.
Love it.
I
Love it. We're a
got
podcast of diversity.
that's right. So yeah, recently I discovered an interesting thriller on Hoopla called The Clove Hitch Killer, and this movie is my Overdue Finds pick this week. So the movie actually came out a couple of years ago in 2019, and so the movie follows a teenager named Tyler, who's played by Charlie Plummer. He lives in this typical kind of midwestern suburb town with his family. His dad is played by Dylan McDermott, and he's a basically Dylan McDermott's character is this well-respected member of the community. He's a business owner, and he volunteers his time as a scoutmaster. And this town that they live in, unfortunately, has been traumatized by someone calling themselves the Clove Hitch Killer, and this person has not been caught yet. One day, Tyler discovers some disturbing photographs in his dad's shed, and these photos make Tyler suspect that maybe his dad is the Clove Hitch Killer. And kind of the rest of the movie shows Tyler trying to find the truth that maybe could potentially, put his dad behind bars and destroy his family. So now it's funny, Bernice, we talked a little bit about true crime. So for true crime buffs, this is going to sound, there's actually a lot of similarities between this movie and the real life BTK murderer case. So it's just something that people should be aware of before you watch it. Obviously, this is a fictionalized telling of that, kind of along the same lines as that real life case, because the real life killer also was a scoutmaster and all this other stuff. So anyway, this is a really interesting thriller, and it will absolutely keep you on the edge of your seat. And this is a movie, I don't really think it got much of a theatrical release at all. So yeah, this really is a true kind of under the radar movie. And if the true crime stuff doesn't really bother you, I think this is a movie that most people will really enjoy.
Hoopla is a really great resource for finding some of those hidden gems, the quieter releases, a limited release, movies that kind of slip past the mainstream kind of press release.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Can I tell a quick Dylan McDermott story, by the way?
Please.
Okay.
I have been waiting for one.
Okay. So this just kind of made me think of this. So this did not happen to me. This happened to my wife, Cheryl. So this probably happened about 10 years ago. Okay. So the place my wife was working at, they were having some sort of work meeting at the Hotel Matrix here in Edmonton. And they were kind of in between working sessions or whatever. They're out in the lobby, and my wife is chatting with a coworker of hers, and this guy walks past them, and this person mentions to my wife, geez, that person really looks like Dylan McDermott. And Cheryl just kind of laughed, and she was like, what would Dylan McDermott be doing here? The person turns to look at them. It's Dylan McDermott. So he was here filming a movie. I don't know which one it was. This is probably about, like I said, maybe about 10 years ago now. But yeah, whenever Cheryl and I see something with Dylan McDermott in it, she always kind of reminds me of the time that she kind of saw him and met him, but not really. So
yeah, no, it's the best part of like a celebrity encounter is then for the rest of your life, being whenever that celebrity comes up, being able to be like, I saw that person, or I met that person, or just bringing it up whenever it's relevant.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, but yeah, check that movie out. All right, so we teased it at the top of the show. Today we're chatting about EPL through the years, and we're taking a look back after EPL. Just recently, we celebrated our 109th birthday. So Bernice, I know you've been at EPL for quite a while, but how long have you been? How long have you worked at EPL for?
50 years.
Wow!
Congratulations!
So yeah,
thank you.
That's amazing. So I guess, like, what was the very first branch that you started at?
I started out at Strathcona as a student page, and I was there for 25 months. Went down and worked at the Milner Library in the children's section, and I was there for 20 years. Then I went to Highlands, and now I'm here at Sprucewood.
Wow.
And at Highlands, you worked both at the library there, but then also the temporary location during the building of the new Highlands Library.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So did you start when you first started, were you in high school then, or had you just graduated, or?
I was a high school student.
Okay. Nice. And so at the time, was it just kind of like was there a job posting in the newspaper for it, or did you just go down there and were you like, hey, I'd love to work here?
Yeah, I just contacted the branch and went down, put an application in, got called in for an interview, and
the rest
that's
is
been
history.
my life.
Yeah.
That's been my life.
When you started, did you have an idea that this was going to be where you worked forever? Was it more of a a fun job or a temporary job. When did you kind of think this
I
made
never thought
sense?
I'd be this long, really, with the EPL. It was, yeah, I loved reading and stuff like that. So it was in that, but no, not staying around that long. It's been
Nice.
changes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of changes, what was the library like when you started, or when you went to the children's library?
When I was going to children's, that's when we were starting to go into automation,
Hmm.
like using different equipment and stuff like that. But there was still a lot of the old recordac machines and hand charging and stuff like that going on. And then entering stuff into the computers was a learning experience.
Totally. Yeah.
So for those that might not be familiar with it, like myself, what is a recordac machine? Like, what did that do?
It took a picture of the customer's library card and a date due notice and a copy of what item they had out, so that if they weren't returned on time, they would get a notice in the mail saying, "Hey, you took this out, time to return it."
That's right. Nice. Yeah, that's incredible. And like also too, I imagine the change as well from like I remember going to the library as a kid and it being the old kind of obviously like the Dewey Decimal System with like the cards and you have to look everything up that way and that must have been a huge change to kind of go from that to what we have currently where everything's just online, right?
Well, that's it. Like now I can tell somebody that, hey, it's not here, it's over at this branch. If you want, we can bring it over here for you.
So in the past then was like because obviously there's been different EPL locations over the years like since you've been with us, how did that work then before? So like in the 70s, let's say, if I came in and there was a book I wanted, maybe it wasn't at Strathcona, like would you guys call like the other branch and have it sent over? Or would you just tell them to go to that branch and pick it up? Like how would that work?
We'd usually phone and say, look, I've got a customer that really wants this book. They're on their way to pick it up. We didn't have the internal travel of the books then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the floating collections that we have now too, that's been a change even since the time that I've been at EPL. It used to be that if you returned something and it belonged to one of the branches, it would go back to that branch. But now if you return it somewhere, it just stays on the shelf where you've returned it. So it was a very different approach to library collections.
So speaking of collections, I guess it's funny because in our internal kind of staff web here at EPL, there was a post the other day. Former guest Christy Travis posted that at her branch, somebody returned an actual record that they had borrowed from our Southgate branch, which I don't know how long it's been closed, but probably since I don't know the 80s or 90s, and it was like an actual record. So Bernice, what have been, I guess, what are some collections that EPL used to have that we don't have anymore? So would records obviously be one of those?
Records,
Yeah.
cassettes, laser discs,
Okay.
VHSs, and we still have people coming in and asking for them.
Hmm.
For like VHS then?
Yep.
Nice. I still have my VHS player. Caroline, do you have a VHS player?
Not here in Edmonton. I don't know why I'm qualifying that. My parents have one, and I guess I still think of that as home. But one of the things that we have now is kind of come maybe full circle on that is that Capilano is one of the locations that has a digital conversion station. So people who have VHS, but maybe not a working VCR, which it turns out is not easy to acquire these days. We've had to source them for the makerspace, and friend of the show, Holly Arneson, does an amazing job tracking down all that technology. But we have the machine where if you have something on VHS, you can bring it in, convert it to digital files, and then play them on your computer or burn it to another technology. So people still have those things for sure, but sometimes the technology has changed. Bryce, how were you big into laser discs at all?
No, I wasn't. I remember there was like one video rental store in Medicine Hat that rented them out, and like I wanted to rent one so bad. Like I thought like that was like the peak of movie watching. I never did get a chance to watch any movies at all on Laserdisc, but if I was older at the time when they were popular, I can almost guarantee, just I know for my love of movies, I probably would have bought a Laserdisc player that would be collecting dust today. Caroline, I was going to say with the VHS player, I think the biggest reason why I'm hanging on to mine is because so I've told this story before on the podcast. Cheryl and I, for our anniversary, we went down to Los Angeles, for our honeymoon, we went down to Los Angeles to try to get on The Price is Right. We're in the crowd, and you can see us quite a few times in that episode. So I still have that episode because it aired in 2003, I want to say, and so I still have that episode on VHS. So I don't want to get rid of my VHS player, but I clearly need to stop in and see you at your branch and get that put onto a DVD or something.
Yeah, I think you should definitely come so the conversion happens in real time, so we could just watch that episode full out, enjoy all of the 2003 prices on it at the risk of furthering this digression. Bryce, was it Bob Barker at the time? Was it still, or had
Yes.
it switched to Drew Carey by then?
No, it was still Bob Barker, and it was also the original announcer, Rod Roddy, too. So this is like peak. Like,
oh yeah,
you can't get much better on The Price is Right than that.
We need to preserve this. We need to for sure. Okay, so that
sorry,
that's our
digression
Price
about
is
VHS
Right
players.
digression. But what do you, Bernice? What do you think are some of the biggest changes that you've seen at EPL over the years?
Technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's been so many people coming in asking, how do I work this? Like Kobos, iPads, computers, laptops.
Yeah.
And it changes so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that I remember in talking with staff about the change of technology is how it's changed with people having like portable technology, able to bring it in to the library and we kind of work on it together. I remember someone was using the example of if someone comes in and asks for, like, says, how do I change the engine in my car? Can you do that? I don't even know. But if someone asks that, we don't say, "Oh, I will help you figure that out." But we would say, "Well, let's look up some resources and find either a manual or instructions or a database or something." But by having technology that you could bring into the library, that really changed the game on what library staff were seeing at the customer service desk.
Yeah, and I imagine too, Bernice, you kind of touched on it a little bit, just with like the Kobos and everything. Like, imagine e-readers are probably, I would think you guys would probably be getting most of the questions about like different e-readers, right? Or not
There's
necessarily.
quite a few, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are phoning, how do I download from the web onto my machine?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the majority of the calls.
Yeah.
I just want to get back to a little bit about different things that people used to be able to borrow from us. Is it true that you used to be able to borrow musical instruments?
No.
No.
Not that I recall. No.
I don't know where I heard that from, but yeah, apparently that is not a thing. So,
yeah. I mean, yeah, at the downtown library, people used to sit all day listening to their records because there was listening stations and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So just come in, you'd get a pair of headphones and just sit and listen to records all day. That actually doesn't sound like a bad day.
You mentioned, so in your journey, you went to the children's library.
Yep.
And of my time at EPL, I have heard more people with their fond memories of the children's library, particularly the animals. What was it like working with the animals in the children's library? Your honest answer.
Like it was something brand new to me when I started there. Like I never had any pets as a child or anything, and then you slowly learn how to care for them and how to bring them out of the cages and have the kids touch them and stuff. Take them to the schools for class visits and stuff. It was different.
What kinds of animals were there?
We had ducks, rabbits, chinchilla, iguanas. So yeah.
Wow. When I was in elementary school, our class had hamsters, and on the weekends, a student we would take turns bringing the hamsters home. Would staff ever take any of the pets home, like either for over like a long weekend or holiday break at all?
No, a staff member went in
Oh,
on a long weekend and cleaned and stuff, fed them.
nice.
So
Yeah, I'd probably be like, can I just take them home, and I don't want to come in on my long weekend. I'll take the iguana home and take care of him this weekend. So Bernice, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You've mentioned all the branches you've worked at. What has been your favorite branch to work at?
because EPL has changed so much, every place is like a new learning experience. So it's really, really hard to say I'd liked downtown over the branch life.
Yeah.
Nice.
Totally different experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. Sprucewood, we should mention, it's kind of like we have a mutual friend in common, the manager of the Sprucewood branch, best friend of the show, Kate Gibson. Yeah, I know that the Sprucewood branch is, I've heard it described as the living room of the community, serves a number of people and is a really important part of the Sprucewood neighborhood.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you, and I'm curious to know this answer. So obviously, people know from listening to the show, I work in our marketing department. I'm not a librarian. I don't necessarily work in a branch. I work out of the Stanley A. Milner downtown library, but I'm in the administration area. Do you know roughly kind of maybe what was there, like even when you started, like was there people in marketing, or was it just kind of like branches would kind of do their own thing to promote the branches?
Branches doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Then slowly it expanded.
Yeah.
Like departments that exist today. Like, what are you talking about? We never used to have that.
Yeah. No, I always find that interesting because like I know that, I've heard over the years that like, oh yeah, we used to be able to do this in the branch and do that, and now marketing, we're kind of like the bad guy coming in and be like, let's maybe not do that anymore. Let's try and centralize this and do it all together. So that stuff I always find to be kind of interesting, and how it kind of slowly evolves over the years.
I think too, technology plays a role in that, where as you were saying, Bernice, there wasn't necessarily the same interconnection with branches, sharing that one catalog or something like our staff intranet. It was, each place was kind of on its own in some ways, or just kind of working with the district branches that were close to it. So having some of that technology to, email out and contact so many people at once. Again, coming back to your answer of technology really changing things at EPL.
One last question before we get into our roundtable ones. I've noticed when staff like yourself hit these really impressive milestones, like you said, you hit that 50-year mark. I noticed staff kind of get to pick. I don't know if it's like you get to pick a book for the collection or something. Did you get to do that? And if so, which book did you pick?
Yeah, on our 5-year kind of anniversary thing. And any topic you want, nonfiction, fiction. And I always go with mysteries.
Nice.
Was there a book that you can share with us that you had picked?
Oh God, I can't remember titles anymore.
No. All good.
Well, I've had so many over the years.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you've been able to kind of share this perspective with us today, because as Bryce said, 9 years, 14 years, that's a snapshot of things at EPL, but the history and the meaningfulness of the library and the community, and your knowledge of the communities that you've worked in, it's really great to hear about your experiences at EPL.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So our first roundtable question: what would you put in a time capsule to represent EPL in 2022? So we're opening this up in the future. We open it. It's EPL from 2022. What would you include, Bryce? I'll start with you.
I would probably go with, maybe this is a controversial one, depending how you feel. I would go with an EPL face mask to put in there, just because, obviously we're hopefully winding down with the pandemic, and a lot of time now it's kind of like you don't necessarily have to wear a face mask in a lot of places now. So, yeah, I would probably just kind of include that as a snapshot of, I guess, not only EPL, but just everything we've gone through over the last couple of years. Caroline, what would you pick?
I like that. You would have the first generation EPL face mask, the second generation one we had, so it can track how things changed during the pandemic as well. My answer was a selection of hits to go titles, because they would represent the most popular items of today from our hits to go bestseller collection. And I think there's a little bit of the technology piece too, that when we open it up, however many years in the future, and we're like, oh, they were using RFID tags at the time, how quaint, or something like that. So that would be my answer. Bernice, what would you like to put in a time capsule?
Well, a comment that we get quite often is the book bags that our
Mm.
EPL has. And there's been so many neat ones over the years.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I did
That's a
not
good
think
one.
of those, but I like that, because it's so exciting. Every now and then, someone will either bring into the library or return books in an old EPL bag, and there's something like so fun about seeing it, and how like it just, some of them look like they're from a different time, and the graphic design of them is cool. Yeah.
I think, and this is a conversation I need to have within my department. I think we need to bring back some vintage book
Mm.
bags. Like take a look at some, and kind of do maybe a limited edition
Retro collection.
retro collection. I think they'd be very, very popular.
I think that, and then I would also recommend looking at the summer reading club looks,
Yes.
because those are quite a look. Yeah. Okay, my next roundtable question: which branch do you think would be the most fun to stay at overnight? Bernice, where are you having a sleepover?
Every branch in Edmonton is so unique
Hmm.
that it's just too hard to say I'd go to this one over that one. Like all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a hard time narrowing this one down. Bryce, where are you staying?
This is the obvious answer, I think. I picked Milner.
Mm.
Just a couple of reasons why I think there's a ton of lots of great seating there.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get comfortable and find somewhere to kind of lay down. And of course, you've got the giant wall. You've got the giant touch screen in the main lobby. So I'd be looking to try and maybe hook up a PlayStation or Xbox to it. And then up in the gamer space on the second floor, they've got the stand-up arcade machines. So yeah, I'm I'm 100% spending the night at Milner if I could.
And now they've got the kitchen. So.
Oh yeah, the kitchen. The kitchen. We just talked about that. I'm covered.
Yeah.
How about you?
That's so funny because I also thought I went with the obvious answer, but mine is Strathcona because it's allegedly haunted. And
Oh, yeah.
so like you've got this kind of like ghost hunter, ghost buster thing happening. I don't know. We'll have to maybe get some. Bernice, you were at Sprucewood or Strathcona. Is Strathcona haunted?
I didn't find it when I was there haunted. Like
Mm-hmm.
it had some really neat features that, oh, I wonder why this was put in. Like the dumb waiter.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess they needed a way to move stuff between floors, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was a big building, 3
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of potential there. So, yeah.
I like it.
EPL sleepovers.
Yes.
Take that idea to marketing too.
Yeah, and we clearly also need to do a Ghosts of Strathcona episode
Mhm.
as well. Like maybe Caroline, we're doing kind of the whole ghost hunter thing and see if we can get something on tape or something.
Yeah, we could do one of those like live on records where we walk around with microphones and all you hear are like bumps or
Yeah.
scratches. So
Yeah. People getting
Yeah.
annoyed because we're just shoving a microphone in their face.
I like this. It's a good spin-off podcast, maybe.
Yeah.
Bernice, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the library. Is there anything you'd like to let our listeners know about? Anything special coming up at Sprucewood?
No, it's just been great working for EPL this long, and I've enjoyed all the people that I've met.
Right. Well, and if you haven't met Bernice, go head on over to Sprucewood and say hello.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today. And and congratulations on an amazing career, 50 years at EPL.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Make sure that you've subscribed so that you automatically get our new episodes. Please also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love getting reviews. And if you like what you hear, tell a friend about the show.
Yeah, and don't forget that we'll have a link to everything that we talked about in today's show notes. We love to hear from our listeners. We shared an email earlier from listener Christine, and so we love getting those. So let us know what you think of the show, and maybe send us some of your EPL memories at podcast@epl.ca. You can also hit us up on Twitter by using the hashtag EPL Overdue Finds. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.